Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim and Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to Voice of Youth. This is your host, Aapka Mezban, Ali Mohsin Hashmi. Welcome you to the brand new episode of this brand new show, Voice of Youth, which is presented to you by Hidayat Television Network, Birmingham Studios. Viewers, as you're aware that this is a recent venture towards empowering our youth and an effort designed to present the show to you from Hidayat Television's Birmingham studio, purely to give you an opportunity to highlight the issues that our youth are surrounded with in today's day and age, and also give yourself an opportunity to speak to us, speak to our panelists, and also discuss what you think is lacking from our community on a wider society and intra-community level as well. Last week we had two episodes where we had the panelists who discussed the issues like education, underachieving students, who also talked about the crime and what type of crime and at what level it starts, and the issues which our society is facing, our community is facing on a wider scale after the events like 7/7 and 9/11. In this particular month of Ramadan, as you're aware, we would be coming to you on Saturday and Sunday. The show would be between 5 and 6, where we would allow you to call in and discuss the issues. Today we will be talking about underachieving youth members of Asian community. So if you are a parent, हम आपको welcome करेंगे, आप हमारे साथ program में join कर सकते हैं. And if you're a member of a youth, you're a member of a community, and you wish that you would like to speak to us live and speak to our panelists today, then you're more than welcome to do so. Again, the topic today would be talking about underachieving members of youth. So that could be directly affected by education, or it could be various factors. To highlight these issues and talk about these issues, we have our very senior panel analysts. We have Amina Bukhari, who does not require any introduction as always, who has worked in the community, currently working on a major project, Acorn Primary School, which currently is an ongoing project, also working for the youth on various projects, spokesperson for a lot of community related projects, and an active personality. We welcome you to the show, Amina. Walaikum assalam. And we have right next to Amina, Sister Quratulain Zaidi. Sister Quratulain Zaidi does not require any introduction. Last week was the first episode where we had introduced Sister Quratulain's great work that she's done in the past for a number of years, between 7 to 10 years of her experience working directly with the community, working with underachieving from the age group of 13 to 24. Quratulain has also worked on various projects where NEAT is one of the highlights of her career, and also BEST is one of the projects that Quratulain worked on. The area of expertise for Quratulain is that she is working with various councils, public and private sector, and working as a youth and community development manager. Assalamu alaikum, Quratulain. First of all, both of you, thank you very much for coming here again, once again, and giving us a chance to present our issues, our youth related issues to you, and get your valuable opinion on this. First of all, Amina, what do you think this show is going to achieve, just on a wider level and on a community level?
Well, I hope it's going to enable the youth to go out there and seek help,
Mm-hmm.
and to reflect on some of the issues we raise and see how they can better themselves. And also for the parents as well,
Right.
to think about what they're doing and how they could make a contribution to help the youth and the adults of tomorrow.
Right, so it's the generation improvement. In your view, Quratulain, very briefly, what do you think this show is going to achieve, and how we can make an impact on our youth with the help of this show?
I think it should benefit the entire community, get stronger, get more united, and help the young people who need the help within their own community,
Mm-hmm.
to benefit them in the future.
Okay. Let's kickstart the debate. So we talked about, I'm going to give a quick recap to the viewers who actually didn't watch the show. If you've missed the first two episodes last week, we actually present the show on Saturday and Sunday. So just a quick recap. We talked about various issues, starting from education on the grassroots, which is exactly sits in line with your area of expertise, as you are currently working on a major project, Acorn Primary School. So for the benefit of the viewers who didn't watch the show last week, what is Acorn Primary School and what is that project all about?
Acorn Primary School was set up to address the underachievement of the children in the local area, and it's a primary school project. We put in a bid for a free school application. We were successful in getting to the interview stage, and the DFE has fed back to us and said that there's some further work to be done, which we're working on, and inshallah we'll put in the application again next year. But at the same time, I would like to work with the young people, and the application will now, if the school gets the go-ahead, the school will open in September 2014. However, we would like to open a primary school anyway in September 2013.
Right.
And we are working very hard to do the fundraising.
So the school project is going to open up in 2013 as per your plan.
Indeed.
And I'm actually aware that you've been working on this project for a number of years.
Yes, we
so
have been.
A lot of hard work has gone back.
Yes, a lot of hard work has gone into this project. We've had to write the whole curriculum, an education plan, staffing structure, the financial plans, the 10% reduction in the financial income, and a governance structure. And we've got a strong team who has put together with me an application for the DFE. And our work isn't going to go to waste, because the thinking behind our application was to address the underachievement for children in minority groups in the inner city area of Birmingham. And we want to put the work that we've done to good use and set up the school. We've got some way to go. We're going to do some fundraising and also apply for funding, and we're looking at businesses which have a vested interest in the local area to help us.
Are you going to be working with the local authority as well, or it would be a completely independent project?
We hope to work with the local authority in the way that we are making them aware, and we're also working with other schools. We have been in touch with local schools and schools further afield up north, and they're all supporting us, because the reasons behind us setting up this school are very noble.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm aware that this is a project of its own kind. There isn't one at the moment.
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, I did my research as well, and I couldn't find a single project working purely for the Asian community. But the beauty of your project is that, you know, even though the whole team is Asians, but you are working for the wider community as well.
The whole team isn't Asian. The whole team, this is the beauty of it, that we've got, the team is from various different backgrounds.
Oh, right, okay.
Retired English head teachers and advisors and people who are working in business.
So the team I've met are predominantly Asians.
Yes, the team that you have met are predominantly Asian. However, it's because it's such a good cause that everybody
would join hands.
Would like for us to succeed.
Absolutely. Well, that's brilliant. Now, moving on to our sister Kuratulain. Kuratulain was with us last week. We talked about briefly her achievements and how she added value back to the community. 7 to 10 years of hard work and adding value back to the community. I think it's quite commendable. Kuratulain, I'd like you to talk about briefly your projects that you've been engaging with 7 to 10 years and between the age group of 13 to 24.
Okay, there's several projects I work with between young people from 13 to 25. 13 to 16 predominantly helping them who are expended or being excluded from mainstream education, giving them a training where they can get accredited training, informal education. And then I work with, have several projects from 16 to 25 who engage, who become NEETs, identified as NEETs, and help them to either get back into some form of training or employment education.
Right. So what is that purely for 13 to 24 age group?
Yes, 13 to 25 I predominantly work with, because they're classed as young people.
Could you give us an example of your project, one of your most recent projects?
One of my recent projects was the BEST project, which stands for Basic Employment Skill, Basic Employability Skills Training Programme. That would help with young people, help them with CV writing, to interview practice, to even helping with the application forms, and also do in-house training, whether it's be hairdressing or support. And I think over the 4 years I did that, I've engaged with 600 to 800 young people who gained national qualification through that 800 people over the 4 years. gain national
Mashallah.
qualification through my program. So,
I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, I'm really, really pleased to hear that, you know, you have been working so actively, and, you know, some people actually work hard for the limelight, and, you know, you've been working in the background for 7 to 10 years. Nobody knew about our sister, you know, doing hard work in a little particular corner of Britain somewhere, and then not even being recognised, and you didn't even care, and that's really I think it's a coincidence to find out about you, and I thought, you know, it'd be good to engage with you. I think what you've done so far is great, but it would be worth mentioning, is this purely Asian community that you work for?
I predominantly work in a multicultural, deprived area, which is a high percentage of your black and your Asians and your new immigrant people who have come to this country.
Is that referring to new immigrants, i.e. European immigrants?
Your
or
European, your Romanian, and also your young Afghan, young people.
So non-EU as well?
Non-EU, especially young, I work with a lot of young males who come literally back off the lorry and a minor. And that was more hard-hitting to take in, you know, helping them to get accommodation, get support that they were unaware of.
So how does that put you in position with Home Office and UKBA? Because I'm sure when you're actually helping somebody who is illegal immigrant, so to speak.
Well, when they're a minor, social services take them, because if they're still a minor, if they're a minor, they are taken as a minor no matter what the circumstances. So social services get
regardless of
how they got here, yes. So they still get the care and the support they need, like a British citizen would if they were homeless. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So is there an area or geographic area that you cover, or it's pretty wide?
I predominantly work in Coventry, and most of them were from your Afghan, your Iraq, and your Iranian and your Palestinian. And one of the programs I did was a hairdressing program for the single young mums who, and more funny enough, the majority were the young young people who came on to learn the basic skill like hairdressing, but also to improve the English. And thankfully that course of 10 weeks, they all went to the local college to get a hairdressing qualification. So to see that and them helping their friends out in the shop was really well done, kind of back sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that gives you, you know, a great joy and great sense of pleasure. But that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Sister Kuratulain, and Amina, we both would be benefiting. Now, without further ado, I think we've done a pretty much summary of what you've done. But what we did last week was we covered certain areas, education on grassroots level. We talked about what are the factors that the education within Asian community, because we're focusing on Asian community on this particular platform. We talked about why there is a lack of education in our and underachievement in our, you know, grassroots level, and also if that has got any impact on our youth, which is further resulted in crime of various nature and also drug use as well. Going back to you, Amina, we talked about education on grassroots and underachievement, and one of the factors that came back out was parents. So underachieving children mean there was one of the parent predominantly is not able to add value or anything. Would you share anything on that?
It's not just one parent who can't add value. It's a number of factors. It could be the local area, it could be the schooling. As we pointed out last week, that if it's affluent parents, they're going to get help for their child even if the school has shortfalls. And likewise, if there's a strong school, then they will benefit the child if the child needs further help and the parents can't help. But if we've got poor schooling and the parents can't help, then the child is in a no-win situation, and that's where you get underachievement.
Okay. Thank you. Just to remind our viewers that the telephone lines are now open. So if you feel that you wish to join the show, you have a comment that you'd like to make, or you would like to ask a question, or if there is anything that you think could add value to this particular show, then feel free to call in. Our telephone number for the studios is 0121 766 449. I repeat, it's 0121 766 449. And if you would like to send us an email, I won't be able to read the emails out straight away. But if you have a question that you don't feel that you would like to come on the telephone, but you can send in an email, and the email address is voy@hidayat.tv. VOY is for Voice of Youth. We would like to hear from our members of youth. I know that there has been a dismay amongst our youth that there isn't much that we are doing about highlighting the issues of our youth, so which is what we would like to sort of bridge the gap. So please get involved, get engaged, and we would like to speak to you and we would like to hear from you. The topic today is underachievement in our member of youth. Going back to you, Amina, we actually covered last week a degree of understanding was that the reason why there is high crime rates, and we actually had some stats where 15.9% crime rate was from last year. That's a significant rise. And when we actually drilled into it, we actually came to a conclusion, or I should say a sub-conclusion, which obviously we would carry on talking about, is that when there is the grassroots level foundation isn't strong, then you tend not to do GCSEs and not tend to do, O levels if that's applicable, and then weak GCSEs means you won't be able to do A levels, and then if you can't do A levels, then clearly a traditional route to university and higher education is very, very slim. What is the relevance to that? Grassroots, higher education, and then crime rate in the middle. Do you think these actually are pieces of a same jigsaw?
Yes, the reasons behind our society has changed from when the immigrants came in and they were enabling themselves to get better economically. Now, as I said in the last program, we have choices, but although we have choices, our affluent level has changed. So when we were growing up, we had there was probably television. We didn't have a microwave. We didn't have iPhones or PCs. So there's been a development in the technology and the technological age. Therefore, we've got more time on our hands.
Right.
But what do we do with that time? How is it being spent? We are spending it with our peers or dining out. We have more money, but how are we spending that money? So although we are then it was deprivation. The interpretation for deprivation was that we can't eat out or we can't afford luxuries. Now those luxuries have become necessities. For example, having a personal iPhone or having dining out.
Yeah, metaphorically speaking, we don't mean by iPhone, we mean a phone. Yeah, so metaphorically speaking, just with the questions.
I'm not advertising.
So let's just clarify. So
yes, of course.
So
Facebook,
just a phone
LinkedIn, or whatever.
Any sort of networking
social media, the PCs. So we've got those things, and we're spending less time with our families, sitting down and having a meal, having a discussion together.
So the traditional value of having an evening meal on the dining table with the parents, it's dying out. Okay, over to you. Do you share the same view?
Because we were known for the widest community, from your black community and your white community, that the Asian had a strong family value cultural hold, which, to look after our kids. When I was growing up, you always had a sense of belonging and identity, and also the support from the community. Now, this day and age, our family is not it's similar to your black and your Caribbean. It's family, but it's dysfunctional family, where the parents are overworking to meet the demands of the kids, or to meet the demands of keeping up with the Joneses, sort of phrase. And we're spending less time we don't even know what our children are doing at school, let alone what courses they want to do or what university they're actually applying for. So I think again, we go back to family, because family has a strong influence on the way we've been brought up. And I think the times haven't changed. There's still 24 hours in a day, but I think people's mentality and their focus have moved away from the values and traditional cultural family values that we've had.
So it's down to the family values.
That's it.
Family values, and to add to that, parents are also struggling hard to retain their heritage and their culture. But the young people have different views about their culture. So it's difficult when if you're not spending time, and then with the little time you have, if you are going to give stress or grief to the
So spending time with the children, you mean?
Yes.
with the children,
Okay.
and young children and young adults. Teenager children.
Okay.
It's very important to grab that moment, and I mean I try to sort of speak with my son when I'm dropping him to work, maybe, or wherever I can.
Yes.
I will have that. And although we can't force them to do things, but we have the influence,
Yeah.
and we as parents need to use that influence to guide our children in whichever way we can. But when the children are very young, we've got to set them expectations and good routines and good role models of what
Yeah.
our
And good
expectations
values.
are, and good values.
Okay, so going back to underachievement, so if we put things in perspective and say, right, okay, one of the factors is that parents are not spending enough time with the children.
It works both ways.
It works both ways, absolutely. So part of the culture needs to be fed in, and also there needs to be a degree of bond with the child. So speaking on behalf of some of the parents, and I'm sure they would share the same view. So there is a degree of bonding that you do with a child up until the age of, let's say, 10 or early teens, let's say up to 13, and between the age group of 13 to 16, the child eventually establishes a degree of networking. And that networking may be, on your street or on the school, that would, require a degree of engagement in external activities, which is something parents cannot monitor. They can set rules around it, and that really, fingers crossed and hope for the child to adhere to those rules, which is when they're exposed to a cultural divide. So, somebody who is from an Asian community, regardless of if Muslim, non-Muslim, Hindu, Sikh, Asian community widely share the same retrospect of community. So we have the similar values. We know that, you don't have to do certain things and certain way of speaking to the parent, and so we share that. So somebody, when a child is exposed to the externals or another culture between the age of 13 to 16, that is a very dangerous territory. How do you think parents who've got children in that age group should manage that better?
It's a different way, because the younger children are under your care, and you can watch over them. When they're older, it's a different way. Although you may not be able to change the way they behave, as I said, you can influence them. So getting involved with their extracurricular activities is one of them. Following up on the work that they're giving, get them involved in the mosque community, in other clubs, football, cricket, any other.
So
thing.
what you're saying is that their networking time, which obviously by default they would assume that they do have that right,
Yes.
between, let's say, for example, I'm going to give you an example. My younger brother, who's 13, and he demands to go out and see his friends between the hour of 6 to 8 in the evening,
Sure.
because he's done his homework, he's done what he's meant to, and now he's out.
Yes.
Mum doesn't know what he's doing, Dad doesn't know what he's doing, and we wouldn't care what he's doing outside.
Sure.
Yet when he comes back, we want to make sure he's back on time. How do parents prevent him from doing what he's not meant to?
Through conversations, and if your younger brother is going out, then obviously mum and dad would also ask how he got on, who he met up with, did he do anything exciting, who were the other children.
Again,
so
engagement.
Engagement, and you would have a good idea of the sort of the children that they're mixing with, whether they are good peer or role models or not.
Yeah, but predominantly speaking, when we talk about, I'm sure you worked within this age group, and you would possibly be able to, relate to slightly better than I can. So when a 13-year-old is out, and a 13-year-old is 18, is an Asian individual, Muslim, let's say, for example, argument's sake, goes out, and we now know that the way our families are, our white peers' families, demographics don't work in that way, and the way they would speak to their parents would slightly be different to how we would, and how they, because clearly their expectations are set in a different way, the way our expectations are set. So when our child mixes with that particular individual or that group of children, then clearly that means two cultures meet. When two cultures meet, clearly there are some aftermath and after effects. How do you think that would affect the child?
It affects them, at that age they're quite vulnerable, and they're going through a transition period from being not mollycoddled, being with the parents, to gaining some sort of little independence. But the way they say little is like they've got a lot of independence, they can do what they want because they're that age. I think they're vulnerable because any negative influence, because they're so naive, I think, 'cause some of our Asian youth are naive because the way we wrap them up in cotton wool, and so rightly so, especially in this day and age. It depends, because sometimes they're vulnerable, but they want to do it, but you can see the hesitance in them, because they know you can see the good child who comes from a good home compared to a child who comes from a dysfunctional home. You can see their attitudes straight away, the two different attitudes. You just need to reassure the child, and I think the way the parents that mould the child when before they're 13.
So the training actually has started way before.
Exactly, and the way that you moulded them to 13 would identify how good the parents have moulded their child into doing something bad or good.
Fantastic. Okay, well that's brilliant. I'm sure the parents who are watching. So if your children are under the age of 13, I think this probably be the moment for you to not only just focus on their academics, which is absolutely a priority, but I think you need to then work on their socializing skills as well, their external engagement, and also how they add value to the community in terms of when they see their friends and peers who aren't Muslim or Asian, how they should interact with them, because ultimately we are living in a wider society where we would if we want to or if we don't want to, without our will, we would be integrating. And I think parents, we understood, would playing the most important part in helping the children integrate with the society. That's fantastic. Now going back to education, moving out of that group and moving to, let's say, GCSEs and A-levels remit. So in that particular, have you got some stats to share with us on GCSEs and A-levels? What is happening with our youth compared to rest of the wider society and different groups?
Okay, these are statistics from the youth cohort study done in 2002.
Okay.
It's broken down to full-time education, to government support training, like your apprenticeship training, your full-time job, part-time job, and out of work.
Okay.
Now, compared to the white community, 69% of white young people are in full-time education, compared to the 77% of Pakistanis and 79% of Bangladeshis. Now, if you look onto government support training, only 10% of white people attend government support training, with the Pakistani with 5%.
So what's that stat that you just read out? So 79%
These are the main
of
activities,
Pakistanis, and 69% of Bangladeshis.
No, 77% for Pakistanis and 79% for Bangladeshis in full-time education.
They are in full-time.
They're in full-time education.
Okay, so you give this stat that they are in full-time education, and that's below 16.
16 plus.
16 or over. Okay, so over 16% over 16 year of our youth. 79% Pakistanis and 77% Bangladeshi are in full-time education. That is actually a very interesting fact, because when you talk about the school dropouts, because I think this is the territory when you actually do the school dropouts is 44% in Bangladesh and 32% in Pakistanis. How would that stat compare with 32%, and do you think it's got any linkage with UCAS entry? Because we actually shared some stats, I'm sure we talked about prior to starting the show. When we talk about UCAS entry, which is the university, when you actually, before you go to the university, you have to actually go through a process which is UCAS application process. So 222,000 approximately applications were submitted by the whites and the indigenous group. 26% of the 26,000 applications were of
Black Caribbean,
Afro-Caribbean community, and 6,500 were only Pakistanis, and 2,000 were Bangladeshis.
That's right.
Now that is a shocking figure. Amina, why do you think UCAS application rate is so low in Pakistanis and Bangladeshis?
Can I just say, going back to the report, I looked at those stats last week, and what those stats are telling us is that Pakistani and Bangladeshi children are going for further education, but between 16 and 18, but they're not getting the grades to get into university.
Okay.
That's what those stats are
Yeah, because if you look on
they decide to stay on at school at 16. They don't go for apprenticeships or for skills-based learning. So they don't go to learn skills, but they go for with the hope of going for further education, perhaps A levels.
Yep.
However, or do the GCSEs again. Why is that? Now it could be that they are looking to stay on at school and for some other reason. Are there any other issues maybe?
Do you think it's got anything to do with the benefits?
Possibly benefits or pressure to study.
Okay.
If you read into the, and those and they're not going for learning skills, because if they learn some skills, if they, plumbers are quite well paid, and so are decorators, yet they're not going for those skills. They're going for further education, even though they haven't required the
so they haven't attained the required level or required grades.
At 16, and
at
they
16,
stay on.
they still carry on studying.
Don't get the education that they need to go into university.
So there's no skills-oriented education. They still carry on with traditional education.
They go for academic education between 16 and 18, don't get the required grades, and then don't apply for the degrees, or they can't get in for degrees.
Well, that's very interesting, because we also have some stats.
Can I just add? And also, it's more girls are going through for the degree qualifications rather than boys. Pakistani boys and Bangladeshi boys.
Right. Okay. So what you're saying is that out of this 6,500 applications, more applications are for our sisters rather than boys.
Yes.
Okay. That is. Right, so those of you who are watching, brothers, you need to do something about it. I hope you do well in your GCSEs and A levels, and we want to be it's equal society, so we want to be working with our sisters on the same merit and same level as brothers, really.
And there are links, you see, because when the girls become more educated, and then you get these concepts of the forced marriage or marriages not working out because there's an imbalance.
That's very interesting.
Academic achievement between the girls and the boys.
And therefore, parents would get involved and impose, or I should say, express their desire of them getting married to
someone in the same level, education level.
Level, and the boys aren't there. They're not educated enough to,
they aren't enough.
They aren't enough educated.
Which leads to the issues of matrimonial affairs. Okay, well that's very interesting. I mean, you see, this is a heart and soul of our debate, which means that when there are 6,500 applications compared to 2,250,000 applications of our white group, and within that 6,500 applications of Pakistanis, majority is our sisters. So when more girls are actually entering into universities now. We also have something interesting drilled further into it, that these 6,500 applications for university, they haven't actually attained GCSEs and A levels. They've actually gotten to that stage via various other qualifications, BTEC, i.e. Would you talk about that, Rosemary? How do they get to the university stage?
Out of the two minimum requirements, 2 A levels to get into university. That was in 2000. 68% of white get into university through obtaining 2 A levels, in comparison to 53% of Pakistanis getting 2 A levels to gain access.
I'll hold you there. So 6,500 applications via UCAS, and out of those 6,500, let's assume that a high percentage is for girls, regardless of the gender. Now, 6,500 of Pakistanis are actually applying for the universities, and more than half of, or just I should say literally just slightly above half of the applications are only doing 2 A levels.
Only obtaining 2 A levels to get into university.
To get into universities, and the rest of them are doing
BTEC, GNVQs,
GNVQs and level 7s and
H&D and
H&Ds and
other access courses to get into
universities.
So that route, is that, what's the level? Because obviously I haven't actually done BTEC or H&D. So what's the equivalence when you talk about?
I think with A levels, you get 3 now to get into university. Now, if you fail GCSE A level, I think 2 years of HND equivalent to an A level.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's from your pass, merit and distinction. So, if say a young Asian boy only got 1 A level, he would need to do 2 HND courses, each for 2 years each, to obtain that 3 A level, equivalent to 3 A levels to go into university. So that will be 2 years diverted from the A level, the usual route, to.
How these stats, because obviously Pakistanis and Bangladeshi community are predominantly Muslims.
Yeah.
And how do these figures compare with our Indian brothers and sisters?
With Indian young people, number of applicants are 12,253.
Okay.
And they come out second with
nearly double.
Yeah.
Even though in population they are 43% of Asian community.
Yep.
Or they're thereabouts.
And in comparison, they go through the A level. 65% of them went through the A level route. To 65%.
Wow. Okay.
And only 23 needed to go to GNVQ, BTEC, and HND to go back and to access university.
Wow, that's very interesting.
An A level is a higher academic achievement
than a BTEC or
indeed, which means that there is an underlying problem with the education
system,
the education system, or perhaps the parenting or the children themselves. And these are the issues we need to address. This is our reason why we're trying to establish Acorn Primary School, is because it starts at the very beginning. And if they haven't got those literacy skills, then it's hindering them to get the A levels that they need.
That's very interesting. We will talk about that. Viewers, we would remind you again that you can contact us as well if you feel like you want to speak to us or ask any questions. You can call us on 0121 766 449, or you could also send us an email on voy@hidayat.tv. We also have we've got various emails, but one of them is from our brother Abdul Qasim Asadi, and he mentions that our children need to be given more responsibility. We would talk about that, and thank you very much for your email, Abdul Qasim Asadi. So going back to that particular factor, that when such a huge divide and A levels are not obtained and we take in a shortcut, what's the need for us to do that? Can we not just say, right, okay, you know what, education may not be my kind of thing, and I'm going to do vocational courses, i.e. I'm going to go into, possibly some sort of skill set that may be a hardware course, or that may be a course in mechanics.
I think it's more like the stigma attached to it.
So there's a stigma attached to it.
With the Asian community, there's a route, and if you come from a good educated family, if you go from GCSE to A level to degree to profession. But not all young people are like that. Not all young people are academic. More young people are more labour skills, like your construction workers, your plumbers, mechanics. But I think the stigma is, well...
Are we lazy?
We're not lazy. I think we're putting too much pressure on young people's attitude. A young person might want to do...
Who is adding that pressure?
The family, and,
so the
and that hinders the community,
the
because the family reflects on how the community sees them, in the wider community sees their young person, their child. And I think it also hinders the opportunities, because they think, well, a mechanic, that's not paid well, Yeah,
exactly. So this is what I was going to say, because we would think
attitude.
If I actually didn't do 5 A levels in my time back in the days when I was doing my A levels, and if I had not done 5 A's, because my cousin had 5 A stars as well, so my mum was already, before starting the A levels, was saying to me, if you don't get your 5 A's, you're not going to, I'm going to throw you out of the house. So that kind of mentality, how do we do you think that's causing that?
I think it's unfair to say that for all of the group, because perhaps there might be another reason. Yes, it could be stigma, and yes, there's a lot of pressure from the parents, and if they can't get in, then they should choose something else. But could it be that they're not getting the props that they need to get a good level of education? If the Indian community can do it,
Yeah.
And why can't the Pakistani community do it?
They live in the
It's the same.
same
They
hemisphere.
are,
Right.
they are from the same geographical area. They've got these same languages, the same background. Why is it that the more Indian children are getting through, but not the Pakistanis?
I mean,
there is I strongly believe there might be another reason.
Okay.
It could be that the parents want to, but they don't know how to. They can't articulate themselves in seeking help. They don't know where to go, or perhaps because they choose to live in an area where the schooling isn't the best that there is.
right, so the parents who are watching right now and they know that their child isn't doing really well in the first attempt of GCSE, and now they're going to take the route of, is it BTEC?
BTEC,
okay,
yeah.
so we do BTEC or H&D, and then that long 3-year, 4-year diploma or whatever this course is leads them to ultimately get into university. Now, on the other hand, somebody who is doing GCSEs and then 11 A's or B's, A's and between A to C, and then after doing the GCSE you then go to A levels, and then you've done minimum 3 and then 5 or up to 6 sometimes A's, and then you go to university.
Yes.
And when you go to university, you come out as a professional, and then the society would accept you, and then employment market would be available to you, because I'm aware that there is that sort of. So the unemployment, so do you think the answer to unemployment and rising unemployment is in this particular theme?
I don't think it's
as black and white as that?
Yeah, it's not as black as white as that, because we've got the children whose parent and the children who want to aspire to becoming professionals, they would find the route. The group which is going through the BTEC route and the access courses are the ones who are persevering, are getting to their goals. But what about the groups which are not getting through? What are they doing? Are they contributing to the unemployment levels?
So which groups are these? Sorry,
the groups which haven't got through, because if only 6,000 you said are getting
6,500 are getting UCAS applications.
UCAS applications. There are the community is much larger than that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are the others doing? Are they going for jobs, or are they learning skills? Or
right.
are they unemployed? Where are they going?
Do we have any skills?
We don't know,
any stats
not
for
this week.
Okay, we would actually.
Yeah.
That's a very fair point. So what we would do, we'll actually look at. Fair enough, 6,500 applications are going through, and then they are going through the traditional routes, and some of them are going through the BTEC route. And people who are actually not going to the universities, what are they doing? That's a fair question.
The stats I looked at last week, only the smallest minority are applying for those learning skills-based roles, such as getting on through to doing plumbing work, or because if they're not applying for the university, if they're not going for skills-based learning, then are they on the dole, or are they working menial work such as taxi or labourer's job, or are they working in the family business?
But there is a stigma attached to these sort of jobs as well. Our society wants doctors and engineers and barristers and
this is what we need to
IT
change,
professionals.
This is what we need to change. We need to create better role models in our community, and we need our professionals to go out into the community and say, look, we need cartoonists, we need journalists, we need actors, we need
mechanics
and plumbers, because all those different professions make up our community.
I haven't come across a single fireman who's Asian. Have you?
No.
Have you?
No.
And I have seen a lot of young children who are between the age of 5 to 10, and they idealize becoming a fireman.
Sure.
Why aren't we thinking on those lines? Why do we think that?
You see, by taking those routes, not only are they going to enable themselves to get an occupation, but they're also going to be good role models.
Exactly.
And make a difference. Because if you have a cartoonist, I was discussing this with a friend of mine earlier, if you have a cartoonist, and they could surely make a cartoon a character which is going to promote Islamic values, is going to promote good role models, which is other than the ones we see on the American TVs. Homer and so on, because
Simpsons
and yes,
absolutely.
And then the children follow those, and they think that's a life that is acceptable when it isn't.
Yeah, do you not think some parents would say that's La La Land, this doesn't exist, and they sometimes literally stop them from even
You'd be
idealising?
surprised at the hidden messages which are fed through some of the cartoon characters.
Yes.
And how it's affecting the thinking of the young people. Things become acceptable through the cartoon characters, and we think that it's not really going to have an impact on the youth, but it does.
So basically, our brother who actually sent us the email, Abdul Qasim Asidi, he said exactly the same thing. He said, give responsibility. We parents need to give responsibility to the children. Let them think, let them make a decision for themselves, rather than telling them that you want them to become a doctor, engineer, or an IT professional, or somebody sitting in the lawsuit, and literally.
I agree with that.
So you share the same view.
Yes.
So all the parents who are actually watching right now, we would, because this really affects our community. Now you think of, you look at the stats, you look at the number of applicants going into universities, and then school dropouts, and then university graduates going into unemployment. It's purely one reason behind it, and I think, I should say one of the reasons behind it is that there is a peer pressure or parental pressure. You're making them do things that they don't want to do. So I would request the parents who are watching this show to please work with the children, get some sort of educational counselling, and lead the way that you think your child would be better off, because after all, it's about your child, not about you. Moving to you, we actually also have a very interesting stat that children within Asian community, or I'm not sure if there are stats associated with the Asian community, but within the Asian community, children who actually obtain A to C grades, so in GCSEs, when they obtain A to C grades, what sort of parenting do they have?
This was done from the Department of Education and Skills.
So this is not this is independent body, it is actually establishment. Okay.
Predominantly working with Asian participation in training and education. It says the economic disadvantage does have an impact on educational attainment, and out of 69% of students with parents in management or professional job achieve minimum of 5 GCSE at A to C.
Okay, so 69% of the children who obtain A to C grades
minimum
within GCSEs, their parents would be working in a management role,
sort of profession.
or they would be corporates, or they would be professionals, or IT professionals, or doctors, or engineers. So viewers, this is a very important message, and we have literally gone to the end of our show. So 69% of students who obtain grade A, B and C within their GCSEs, their parents are IT professionals, or they are doctors or engineers, or they are in management roles, or they are professional of any level. But what happens to the other stats?
And only 36% of Asian students with parents in manual jobs only achieve minimum of 5 GCSE A to C grade.
Right, so the A to C
it's only achieved by 36%.
36% of A to Cs are given or attained by children whose parents are in manual labour or manual jobs. So somebody whose father. So do you think that kind of relates to the stigma that parents have, that if you are in manual jobs, you're not going to, it would be difficult for you to get A and B and C because I won't be able to give you that level of
I think that's just
support?
an excuse for the parents.
Right.
I think parents have got responsibility as well as the children to achieve their potential, to help their child achieve their potential. And the cycle can be broken. It's up to the parents to break that cycle for the child. But if they say, well, I didn't do it, so don't bother, because I tried and I failed, so I'm sure you're going to fail as well, so why bother? So...
Yeah, I just want to add that the parents who are in manual jobs, they want to help their children, but they don't know how to.
No, but the 36% of those are getting A to
are
C.
getting it, yeah.
So there is a big minority, I should say, of parents in manual labour whose children are getting good grades.
Yeah. However, we mustn't think that it's the end of the world for us. If we were in manual labour, then our children won't do good, because you can access the education. You can support your children, you can seek help. You have a right to go into the school and ask for help from the teachers, from the school, and access education, supplementary classes. All that is available, and some of it is free, but it's knowing how to. And if your child cannot, if they're not academic, then guide them through to learn the skills that would enable them
rather
to
than
get
sticking to the
rather than
traditional
sort of
education.
say, oh, if they don't get A levels or if they don't get into a degree, then we might as well forget it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. We literally, didn't realise that it's now time for us to say our goodbyes. Thank you very much, Amina Bukhari, for your valuable time again today, and Sister Kuratulain Zaidi. Both of you, you've been great addition to the show today. And you viewers, those of you who actually sent in emails, thank you very much for joining in the debate. But one message for the parents and one message for the youth. Message for the parents is that you need to give control, like our brother Abdul Qasim Asadi mentioned, that you need to give control to your children, and that control is purely academic, and also it helps them become better members of the society and better members of the community. So they need to do what they feel they're better at, rather than adding pressure. And on a similar note, a message to our brothers and sisters, members of youth, that you need to highlight to your parents what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. Highlighting weaknesses only makes you a better person. On that note, your presenter Ali Mohsin Hashmi says his goodbyes along with the Hidayat Television Birmingham team. We shall see you tomorrow, inshallah. Look after yourself and enjoy Rosé. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.